last but not least, Unholy Egg Decay. On the stat sites, I saw just like regular Unholy Death Knight, like before, with just a couple additions. This is like, we got Sawbones, we got 2 Talanji's Last Stands, we got Tower of Ghouls, and we got Egg of Kalos, because it's always a thing on the board, as well as some Twilight Eggs. Have you ever actually gotten Kalos out of it?
No. Has not mattered.
I did not think that was the point. No.
I mean, it could happen. You know, it's a possibility.
I have played against more than one deck that seemed to be all in on just killing it. If you wanted to play Egg but also Death Knight, there is a way for you to do that.
It must have hurt someone, because the first time I queued up this deck, I played Egg Bearer on 2. I hadn't even played the Egg of Kalos yet. I'd actually gotten a Twilight Egg in my hand, but they just left. They didn't even concede, they left. So someone was hurt badly, I guess.
Welcome to episode 554 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, July 9th, 2026 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Nagesa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, NY Kiwi, Spine, Grizzly Bear, and by our patrons of the week, Dante Vidal Silguero and Ridiculous Hat. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. And if you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. So, Life and Ladder. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I guess I didn't go last week, so I guess I could go first this week, because I was, we were on a road trip last week. I don't know how much you told people, but gave away all my secrets, but we were doing college visits for the twins. So we ended up going up through Maine, up into Montreal for a couple days, and then back down through Vermont and then back home, which was a good trip, but also 5 neurodivergent people in a minivan for 6 days together is challenging. It's because it's the kind of thing where we're all doing the same thing whether we wanted to or not, and that can sometimes lead to stamina issues. But it was also like through that horrible heat wave, right? So like we're doing college tours. It's even in Vermont, it was like 95 degrees. So we're walking we're doing like an hour to an hour and a half tour that's like at least half outdoors in that heat, and just like death marching across these campuses trying to so the tour guys were like, yeah, I'm going to try to get you indoors as quick as I can, but like it's only so far, so fast that they can go, and they have to wait for everybody to catch up. So it was a little rough at times, but we were able to successfully see all the colleges. We did not get arrested at the border. That was good.
Always nice.
Yes, it was. Apparently it's also road construction season in Canada, and they have this magic technology where they just have like a traffic light on, like 2 traffic lights on like carts that they just put up, and they're hooked up together, and then they control when you can only go through the one lane instead of having to have a police officer there to direct traffic. So it just works, as opposed to like having to figure out if the police officer is waving at you or not, and then you see like an actual like stoplight, which is amazing. We were because we ran into that a lot. There was a lot of construction going on, and we saw that a lot, and we're like, this sucks, but it's also nice. But anyway, in Hearthstone, I did I opened up Millhouse like Jailhouse Mana Storm in the pre-release brawl, so I was basically just doing that like the entire time. I pretty much just put in like all the spells. It was just oops all spells with Mana Storm, and then eventually Edel recommended that I put in whatever the druid card is that draws 2 minions, or draws 2 minions, and if you have 10 mana, then you get +3/+3 or whatever. That's from the new set. That nobody cares about the 10 mana. I just cared about getting Millhouse down on 5, because the games where you don't draw him are in that brawl were miserable. Because it's all just like, I mean, you have a lot of ways to like sustain, and shadow rounds in that brawl also with all the little guys that were running around was very good. But if you're not actually like summoning a minion every time you cast a spell, then you're just like not progressing anything. I think I got like 1-6 win run with that and a bunch of 5s. I ended up just getting games where I just wouldn't draw it, or the minions were bad or whatever. That's what an RNG based deck will do to you. And since the set came out, I played a little bit of the Chef Druid. That was doing, I should probably go back to that until Edel passed me the Mana Storm control deck that I was playing for about a day. That got me up to Diamond 5. That was doing very well until I got Diamond 5, and then it kind of started falling over. And then you cursed me by saying, how are you going to be paladins? And I shrugged and say, I just dodged them, and I stopped dodging them. And then I went and saw what else was there, and yeah, it turns out we talked about Egg Warrior with Hogger, and doubling up the number of eggs and the number of Umbras, and yeah, that's pretty good. It's I did, lose a bit of my soul every time I queued with it, but that's okay, because there's rogues, and then I'm on even footing with them. If I don't have a soul and they don't have a soul, then that's we're both on the same level. So it's been a little bit up and down, and I spent like the couple hours before the show just trying a few other things just to make sure that I at least like had gotten a couple games in, and most of those went poorly, but that's because I'm kind of doing deck roulette, and that's usually not gonna go great for me. But yeah, I mean, I also was liking the Egg Warrior a little bit because I was starting to feel like a lot of the decks that I was playing up until then, or playing against, were pretty RNG heavy, and I was kind of looking for something with a little bit more of a defined game plan that didn't rely on, not rely is probably the wrong word, but didn't care as much if I got a bad roll here or there, and I can just kind of do the same thing over and over again, which Egg Warrior does do pretty consistently. I mean, there's draw RNG obviously, but it's not like, oh yeah, I just generated a Grom and hit you in the face. Like that's not as much of an issue with the Egg Warrior, because it's not really relying on the random generation, which I felt like that was kind of like grabbing for a lifeline after a little. I mean, probably from doing both the Chef Druid into the Mana Storm control, which was just a lot of like, oh well, we're gonna play a bunch of cards, and then you're gonna get a bunch of minions, and who knows what they're gonna be, and hopefully they're good, and maybe they're not. Like I know what the minions are in my deck, and I know they're gonna be good if I can kill them enough times. So yeah. But I am a terrible person, and I come by that honestly. But that's nothing new either. So
See, on the website, I put like a little epithet for each of us, and you are a broken control player.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Guilty.
I am ruthless aggro player, and I think Edel was off meta deck brewer.
Yeah. And yet, I have played considerably less control priest than someone else on this panel.
That is true. I have had a weird start of it. One thing that is not weird is that I have not been winning very much. I'm really glad
that
I got
is actually
11X.
kind of weird. Like, didn't you end like top 300 last season? Like, that is kind of weird, actually.
This happens though. I will finally like really have myself down at the end of a season, like an end of an expansion is always when I like do best. Not necessarily when I'm like most excited about the meta, but when I do the best. And then now I'm facing the hardest opponents and everything is different. And it was a little bit less true last year because the decks wouldn't change as much when we had releases. But when the decks change a lot, this tends to happen. I try a bunch of stuff. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. I don't just want to jam the best thing. I don't quite know everything I'm facing necessarily. So I have reached Diamond 5, but on the back of 11X more than anything. I'm sure that I will hit Legend at some point here.
So I don't know what decks I'm going to play against. So why don't I play a control deck, which really makes me have to know the decks that I'm playing against, especially when a lot of them are generating a bunch of stuff randomly.
I know, and for a minute I was actually winning more with Priest than I was with like Unholy DK, which was very weird. But we'll talk more about this. Was an Unholy DK from Edelweiss. But I started out, besides trying, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of Pure Pally, all this kind of stuff, I was trying to get Soothsayer Priest to work, and that actually is like pretty good. It's pretty good unless you run into Mug Shamans and they hex you, because they always hex you.
That's tough.
And my absolute saddest story here was it was kind of a comeuppance. I had played just a couple games of Mug Shaman and been really gleeful when I generated Farseer Woe. Farseer Woe, for those who don't remember, is a 2/6 elusive that says after you cast a nature spell, discover a nature spell from the past. Or after you cast any spell, maybe, discover a nature spell from the past. So that is an amazing engine in that deck. I just had a full hand for the rest of it. It's hard to kill because it has 6 health and elusive. And you're putting lots of other stuff on the board and freezing things and doing AoEs and all this stuff. So I was gleeful about that. So I guess it was only fair play that when I went back to the Soothsayer Priest, they generated Farseer Woe. And I finally killed it, but they had a bunch of random cards in hand that I didn't know what they were. We were going back and forth. I was not really doing much damage to them. I was trying to figure out how I was going to survive these hexes. They had 1 hex left, assuming they hadn't generated any. But they had 1 hex left from their deck. But I managed to get 3 Soothsayers. I can't remember exactly how this happened, but it was something involving... I had put Kalia in my version of the list, who resurrects your highest cost minion, and I had duplicated it with something else, and it also runs Schism. So I had 3 in a row, but not with elusive. Then they play Conductivity, which they generated from Farseer Woe. Conductivity says your next spell also targets adjacent minions.
Brutal.
And they hexed all 3 of them.
Should have positioned around it, obviously.
Yeah. Shout out to Madras Lover, who was spectating because they had a spectate quest, which they did not finish from watching me. And then they very politely pointed out afterwards that if I had taken a different imbue choice the previous turn, I may well have won. I might have died, but if I hadn't died, I would have won.
There are a lot of games where if I hadn't died, I would have won too. So, you know.
It was more likely, I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't know whether it was correct or not, but it definitely should have thought a little harder about, because my opponent was at 1 health when this was happening, by the way.
That sounds about that's the quintessential priest experience, is that you get them down to 1 and can't end the game. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right. But it is a fun deck. I had some crazy mirrors of that where we both got the quest reward, because it does actually go for the quest, and then it has like death rattle stuff that goes with both, and like copy stuff that goes with both the Soothsayer and the quest reward. And that's a silly mirror, because if you both get the quest reward up and then they start attacking into each other, then they're just hitting missiles into each other that kill them, and then they hit more missiles that kill those, and then it goes back and forth a bunch.
It's like that old video of like plastic cube with a bunch of mouse traps, and all the mouse traps have ping pong balls on them, and somebody drops 1 ping pong ball into the cube, and then they all just start firing off into each other.
That's an even better analogy than I had. I was thinking of that gif of a bunch of cats like in a shelter or some place where like there's like 20 cats and something falls and then they all start running simultaneously, which causes everything else to fall over. But I think the ping pong balls mousetrap is a little bit better. I then was so annoyed about the hexes that I switched to Control Priest. And I was I had a win streak with it, and I was like, maybe I have figured it out. Maybe I am secretly a control genius this whole time. And then I lost like 7 times in a row, so now I'm even at 13-13. I was trying around with different tech. I mean, it has the same problem that Control Priest has had, which is you put in tech for one deck and then you're worse against a different one. I put in some Holy Novas, which did seem to be helpful, but it's hard to fit everything that you want in. I will say Tyrande plus Holy Embrace makes us much more lethal than the deck was before the expansion. Because the second half of Holy Embrace is just damage, so it does work with Tyrande. And then you also have Moonwell, and you have Atiesh if you're playing strict control. So like that part does work. We don't need the flash heals anymore, and it's just like that part's a little bit tighter. But it's hard out there. Mug Shaman not only has Hex, they also just get on the board incredibly fast because they essentially have Overgrowth on turn 1.
Seems good.
It turns out they always have a minion. Because we were like, how's this going to work? You're not going to have that many minions. No. They have a minion like every turn. Often, they have several minions between which to choose on what they will play on any given turn. So, yeah, that's been something. But I am enjoying trying things out, even though a couple times I've had to, like, take a break because my husband gets home and I'm just sitting there like, they had conductivity into Hex. And he's like, I don't know what that means, but I'm sorry. How about you, Edel?
Well, I also had Millhouse in the Brawl, right? And so had been doing that. I think we talked about that last week. And then just continued to play Millhouse on release because I made that control deck that Wicked was mentioning, which did well for a while. And then I was seeing a bunch of Paladins. And the thing about the Paladins is they have Divine Shields. And Mage really doesn't like Divine Shields with just all damage-based removal. Like, to try and activate Bitter End is a huge pain. So you kind of have to be able to freeze their board over and over again. And there's like, a decent amount of that with Bitter End and Blizzard and Cold Snap. But then you need to like either leverage the minions that Millhouse is getting you or just go face. And
or you generate like devolving missiles off of
right.
Or you Relics of Kings into Twisting Nether or Typhoon.
Yeah. Right.
I did one friendly against Edel because I had a Challenger Friend quest and I saw she was on. And I played Pure Pally, not out of malice. I didn't think about that would be a bad matchup into the mage.
I mean, you didn't know what I was going to play. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it probably was going to be a mage or like a DK of some sort. If I was a betting woman. I was just like, this pure Pally's fun. I'll try that. And I generated a free resistance aura on 3 and then Nozdormu on 5. She still probably would have won if she had generated a Typhoon or Twisting Nether or equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
But alas, whiffed.
Yeah, I mean, so basically you are quite reliant in the, oh god, their stuff is too big moments in having gotten the right thing from Altar Time or Relic of Kings. Because there's gonna be a lot of ways that your damage is not enough to actually clear the board.
It does occur to me we could be running Sands of Time in that deck to try to get.
I did that.
Okay, and that was not helping. Okay, awesome.
I mean,
never mind.
Let's see. Yeah, this list might be somewhat out of date, the one that's in our sheet.
It was the one that you gave me, and then I just swapped out Toki for Zuramat's Prison.
Yeah.
But I didn't get all the you didn't share all the hot tech with me. So, you know.
The updates and reversions. Yeah. I had Sands of Time in for a bit, and I think it's just it has gotten more unreliable. Right?
Well, that happens as you get a bigger pool.
Every class got more spells. So the odds of you getting a good enough spell outside the mage class are not super high. And then if you don't, you're just looking at mage spells again, which don't actually solve your problems. So I was experimenting with other things. I was trying out Dragon Soul because those are 6 drops.
Okay. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough problem to.
It also
address.
Puts 6 more cards between you and Mana Storm.
But with double Portal Vanguard plus Xavius, and Millhouse being the only minion you're looking for, it didn't feel like that was the big issue. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. See, this was yet another thing in the Control Priest where I was like, I want Ruin, Shadow Word Ruin, for like Paladins. But we only got 30 slots. One other thing that Tyranda's good for, though, is Tyrande plus Medivh's Triumph is 8 damage AoE.
I could see saying no soul, no skeleton key, and go for double Spark of Life, because then it's just druid spells, and there are some druid spells you might be interested in for armor. It doesn't solve the clear issue so much.
I mean, I guess you can kill a Nor's Dormu with the spell that kills a minion and summons another minion of the same cost. At least it's not a Nor's Dormu in that case.
True. Yeah. You know, I also considered just putting Arcane Barrage in there, right? It's a solid card, even if you're not burning their face. You know, it's decent clear. But yeah, it feels like Mage just has a little bit of struggle. And Millhouse being 5 mana and you having to spend some turns playing, you know, Portal Vanguard or Xavius to get out the Millhouse, like, that's significant wait time before you can get online. And like, then you can use your minions that you've been summoning every time you cast a spell to help clear stuff.
But you also have to be able to play Mana Storm and not die, which is the other challenge. Like, that's why when I was in the Tavern Brawl, I was playing the Pure Paladin 2/3 taunt that summons 2 copies of it, because since I was all spells, they were all class cards and I had no neutrals, so I was able to do that. And then I could do that into Coin Millhouse the following turn, or at least like or play the card that would draw the minions on 3 into. I'd be guaranteed to draw at least one of the Pure Paladin minions on 4, and then hopefully have something protecting my face so that I could just play Millhouse on 5, and then I was off to the races. I mean, you have better ways to freeze stuff, but also you're not playing minions that can trade off or protect your face until you get Millhouse down. And if everything's at the bottom of the deck, which happens every so often, then you're still very sad.
I mean, it is relevant that any 0 cost spells will summon a 0/1 taunt.
Yeah, that is nice.
When I played a game or two of the burn version, I was like, this is very nice. Well, it also helped that I got a double Battlecry Mana Storm.
Oh, that's great. That's the best. I got that the first time I played the deck, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do this every time. This is broken. And yeah, it sure is. But I mean, sometimes Xavius will give you like -2 cost, -2 attack, which you don't care. Right? Also, like, you don't care about the attack. You just want to get him out. And then if you can get him for 3 at that point, then you can just play a spell or two behind him, and then you're in decent shape. But yeah, sometimes you just have to like, oh well, I can if I play a 5-mana 5/5 and pass, I'm just gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe let's not do that. But then if you have to push off too many times from that, then you just never get going.
Yeah. Anyway, probably should have brought all that up in the explanations, but that's what I played a bunch. Otherwise, just been trying all sorts of things. Probably the best success was the Unholy Egg Decay, which is more of an aggro deck more of a combo deck than an aggro deck.
That's why I was playing. That's why I was losing. I wasn't thinking of it as a combo deck. Okay.
Where the combo is, I draw a ton of cards, refresh my mana, and play Talanji's Last Stand. That's
Minions in Talanji's Last Stand is technically a 2-card combo, I guess.
Yeah. We should just get quickly on to explanations.
Okay. Well, let's get. We have a little bit of news. We have a little bit of news, so we'll talk about a little bit of news, and then we'll just get on to explanations before we end up spoiling the explanations in Life and Ladder, as is tradition. But let's just kind of get through the news, then we can go back to talking about decks for a while.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So we did get a hotfix patch, 36.0.1. This was actually 9 days ago. So this was after the last time that you two recorded, but before now. So they said they fixed an issue with the game crashing on iOS devices. That was a big problem.
Yes,
after
it was.
The patch, and I'm glad that they fixed that. So there's a bunch of changes that I think were mainly affecting the pre-release brawl. Unfortunately, one of them was a little unfortunate that said Minesweeper now triggers its effects correctly after a transform card is copied and then played or transformed, because it apparently didn't trigger its effect correctly the rest of the time, because that had to get banned temporarily and then unbanned the next day. And then following that, Slagmaw was getting too much juice out of the Mugsy hero power, because it was triggering both the battle cry. It was doubling both the battle cry and the kindred, which there are enough things in here. We were having a conversation before the show, which may or may not be on the patron bonus audio, because I don't remember if we were recording when that happened or not. Yeah, but there are a number of things that they're pretty borderline, whether they're bugs or features. And that one, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's like not as intended, even if it's technically correct. But that one is one that it is currently banned right now. I don't believe they've unbanned it as of the time of recording. They're probably working on that, but they will. There's not going to be any dust refunds for that. They're just going to fix the bug with it, and then or make it work as intended, and then put it back in the pool. And nobody's going to get dust refunds for that, because they usually don't do that when it's just like a temp ban.
Yeah, this is something where if we think back to like Astalor and Mana Thirst, you double the battle cry but not the Mana Thirst, because it's not technically a battle cry even though it happens upon playing. That is how the Kindred should work, but it wasn't immediately clear whether that was the case. Apparently this has been true for a while. Someone said that they had been, Slagclaw was kind of their pet card and they had been trying it. And they had noticed that this was true, like in Wild or something, or maybe they were playing it with.
They could have done it last year with Shutterblock.
Yeah, with Shutterblock. Yeah, so this has been true for quite a while, but nobody except them noticed. And now it was the absolute cornerstone of a Z Shaman deck, and it does a lot of damage when the Kindred is also doubled. So it was very noticed.
Yeah. A couple other things that are relevant from that. There was a bug that was present in Theory Crafting around Skeleton Key, where it was We were asked as participants not to use this because it was not how it was. It was a bug that they knew about that was going to be fixed, where the self damage skeleton key is the one mana spell that discovers a spell and you can refresh it as many times as you want. You take 5 damage every time you do that. It was discounting Spellweaver's Brilliance, which is the 10 mana spell that summons a 6/6 dragon that discounts for every damage that you've dealt with spells this turn. There are a couple other things I think that they've changed to kind of be loss of life versus damage in that way. And this is another one of those where it generally damaging yourself doesn't trigger things that care about doing damage that don't specifically say damage to yourself. So that will no longer do that. Undeath Sentence, which is the pre-spell that triggers a random death rattle that's triggered this game, can now be played even when your board is full, which apparently it was not allowing you to do because not all death rattles summon minions. That's just a prejudice that some people have. And now the Minesweeper's Battle Cry will now only trigger once, was an update as of July 8th. So there's 2 updates for Minesweeper, and then they put that back in the pool subsequently. There's also some updates to Battlegrounds that, as usual, we're not going to go into, and not every one of these are things that we're going to enumerate, but you can go read the patch notes for that if you are interested.
Speaking of skeleton key, this is going to be a theme that Hex is like the bane of my life. Another shaman somehow got skeleton key from something and then refreshed it till they got Hex.
Brutal.
And they didn't take any damage even though they refreshed it like 5 or 6 times. Actually, maybe that was a rogue. You know what? It was a rogue.
It was, I would assume it's a rogue because that sounds like BS, and that's usually...
Wait, except it would have to be a shaman because it discovers from your own class.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, never mind. So it was a shaman acting like a rogue. Yeah.
Stop being such a rogue, shaman. Like...
Anybody who... There's a few people who might remember that my biggest rant ever in our Salt Mine channel was because of that Hex, like a year or 2 ago. There was that like board lock shaman that would like hex your entire board somehow.
Oh yeah,
and then just keep your entire board locked with 0/1 frogs, and I just like melted down. I crashed out, as the kids would say.
Indeed.
And yeah, so Hex is my nemesis, I guess.
Man, you would have loved Day 1 Galakron Shaman.
Yeah, I'm glad I missed that.
Yeah.
That was 8/8s though. That was like...
Well, it was also just like, it was the thing, the other, not Kragwa, but the other Zentimo.
Oh, sure.
And one of the invoke spells was freeze a minion.
That's right.
And invoke your hero power. So you would play Zentimo, and then you would play that, and you would freeze 3 minions and invoke Galakron 3 times.
That is how it became known as the Zentimo problem, right?
Because that was the only time that Zentimo was relevant in the entire time that it was in standard.
Zentimo, whatever. Yeah. It's the issue of a very niche legendary that suddenly becomes, busted for a particular deck. That then, if you spend your dust crafting that legendary, and then they nerf the deck so that the deck is no longer viable, you've now crafted a Zentimo that you are not getting your dust back for.
Yeah. Like if this was happening in Magic, there would be go check your bulk and go sell these cards to your store immediately because it's going to get banned and you're going to lose all this money. So go get your money while you can. But yeah, anyhow, there are some other known issues, but most of them, so there are still, Slagclaw is still banned as of this recording. Hopefully it will get fixed soon. Also, Grove Shaper is banned in Wild. I'm not sure what Grove Shaper did exactly. That's a 5 mana 3/6 druid minion that after you cast a nature spell, summon a 2/2 treant with Death Rattle, get a copy of that spell. I'm not sure what Grove Shaper's crimes are. It would be appropriate, given that this is the Prison Break expansion, that it did some sort of crimes, but I don't know what they are. So, but I'm sure it's bad, whatever it is. because especially in Wild, if they're willing to ban a card, then it must have done some serious crimes.
I mean, it lets you get back certain nature spells, and doesn't surprise me if we're talking about Wild, right? Because you can have Floop's Glorious Gloop going where you get mana back, and then I don't know if that's a nature spell, but it lasts the whole turn, and so you just keep. But
that's
doing
been
stuff
there forever. It's got to be some new interaction that caused that.
Yeah, but it just means there has to be some nature spell that does something silly, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, it's Wild. There's got to be something dumb that's possible now with all those cards.
What I have heard is that the bane of Wild right now is Warlock, that it's like half the meta, and there's like 3 different Warlock decks that collectively are like half the meta, and they're just way better than everything else.
I mean, that's just kind of like a weather pattern in Wild, though. It's just like every so often something happens and Warlock gets cards, and then all of a sudden it's good again, and then needs to be like hit with the hammer to calm down, and then it just kind of happens all over again. So there are just some of the things on the known issues are not actually they're bugs, but some of them are text only bugs, and you just want to be aware of them. Like, there are some daily event quests that don't say that they need specific modes, but they can't be done in casual. So if you're playing in casual and your event quests are not clearing, that might be the reason. So do be aware of that. Also, if you have been playing this game for long enough to know what Grove Shaper did, and you were trying to play the Boomsday Project Secret Lab, which is the puzzle mode that was the solo content for the Boomsday Project, which is, I've forgotten how old it is, but it's old enough that it probably could be going to sleepaway summer camp at this point. It can't be completed. There's something that's broken there. I'm sure they will fix it at some point. And players that had golden trial cards in their decks, because all the trial cards expired with the new expansion coming out. Players that had golden trial cards in their deck did not have decks replaced with non-golden owned copies after the trial period expired. So the deck slots still show gray while the missing card is still occupied. So the workaround here is you take the gray card out and then replace it with the card you own. This is the first time that they've really had, at least outside of China, they've had a mass expiration of trial cards. Most of my decks, I usually delete everything, all my decks, when a new expansion comes out anyway, but most of my decks were like 28 of 30 cards, even though I own, I believe, 2 copies of every card in both of those expansions. But it just would, even though if you own the cards, it would still add the trial cards for you, which the next time that they do that, it would be nice if they defaulted to cards that are in your collection to kind of get around this. But anyway,
what would happen is that often you wouldn't own the golden ones, and it would default to golden cards. So even if you owned 2 of a card, if you didn't own the goldens, then you would have the golden trial cards in. And that's why, like, all my decks pretty much had the trial thing on it for the entire expansion, because it would have goldens of things I owned. And then I did have to, on the few decks that I kept, take out, like, it won't let you just like hit the replace the card. You have to drag it out of your deck and then drag it back into your deck, and then you're good.
I did not know about any of this because every time an expansion comes out, I delete every single deck I have.
Yeah. I also do that, but I noticed that they were all 28 of 30 as I was doing that. So, and also in Wild, Prince Renathal and Time Thief Rafam cannot currently be included in the same deck. So Renathal sets your deck size to 40. Rafam adds 10 copies of himself, or the 10 Rafams to your deck, and those are apparently fighting with each other, and there's no reason that they shouldn't be, because decks go to like 99 now. So they'll fix that. There's a bunch of other things that are going on, like, a bunch of cosmetic and tagging issues that will be fixed. But it's always a good idea, especially if you're newer, to go look at the known issues if something's not behaving right, or even if you haven't encountered it yet. Sometimes there are things that you will get bit by if you're not careful. Even if you know these things, you'll probably get bit by them anyway. But it's at least good to know what they are, so that you can try to play around them if there's something that's going to affect you. Or like sit down to try to have a relaxing day of finally, today's going to be the day I'm going to clear the secret lab from the Boonstay project, and then end up getting foiled again, not because you didn't figure it out, but because it's broken. Those modes are hard anyway, because sometimes cards just get nerfed, and they were designed with the cards the way that they were, and now those cards have changed so many, or get buffed, and they don't work the way that they should have. So anyhow, but that's it for things that are broken. So now let's take some time and talk about some decks that are broken, or some decks that are not broken because other decks are broken.
Right, so our plan for the rest of the episode, and we sort of started this already in Life and Ladder, as we always do in episodes like this, is talk through what some of your options are with new decks in the meta, and a little bit about how they play or what's in them. We have included in the show notes a deck sheet with samples of the decks that we're going to talk about. We're not necessarily saying that these are the best versions of the decks, so keep that in mind, but they are representative either of what we've been playing or of what we found that seemed to be doing well on HS Guru as of recording. Note also that as of recording, it is only 2 days into the expansion. By the time you're hearing this, things may have changed a little bit, but we've gotten far enough to be able to see what some of the outliers are. So, barring possible changes in the, we'll see how much the meta can adapt, I guess I would say. And we've already had some changes with like the bans of Slag Claw. They had said early on that they were going to have about a 2-week window before doing changes, most likely. So I wouldn't expect changes like next week as we're recording this, which might be this week by the time you're listening to it. We should, like 2 weeks out from the expansion would be about the 21st, thereabouts, right? Is about when they said that they would have changes. So that said, let's see. So maybe just talking about some of the decks that are at the top here. Shaman has kind of been dominating the stats. Mug Shaman, Z Shaman a little bit less so, I think, since the Slag Claw ban. But Mug Shaman actually depends on which stat site you look at, I guess. Z Shaman is actually higher on... Oh no, I have the wrong filter. I have bronze through gold. Let me mark this.
And you also have to be careful with at least on HS Guru, that there are still a number of lists, depending on what your time filter is, that have Slag Claw in them. And those are not... Their win rate is not going to 0 because people just had to stop playing them, right? So they still have a high win rate, and until you get out of the time window that they were legal in, then they're still going to have a high win rate because they were kind of broken at the time.
So if I go to HS Replay and filter to last 1 day, Diamond through Legend, the tier 1 decks are Z Shaman, which I think last 1 day is not catching too many Slag Claws. Face Hunter, Mug Shaman, Dragon Warrior, Egg Warrior, End of Turnitin with Gelbin again, Pure Pally, Arcane Tripwire Hunter, and Troublemaker Rogue, 2-drop Rogue, whatever we want to call it.
2-bit Rogue.
Those are
yeah.
tier 1 and tier 2.
Yeah.
On HS Replay. But if we start with Mug Shaman, so Mug Shaman, again, if you haven't been playing that much and you can't remember which side is which, Mug Shaman is the spell side. And as we had mentioned in Life and Ladder, they always got a spell. I mean, they always got a minion. They always have a spell too. And they're running to get minions Blazing Invocation, which discovers a Battlecry minion, Low Security Wing, which gets them 3 random minions, Mountain Map, which often gets them 2 minions. Let's discover a minion with a type you haven't played. If you play it this turn, also pick one of the others. They have their spells that turn into minions. A newer development has been playing Ascendance, which is a 4-mana nature spell that says transform all friendly minions into ones that cost 1 more. They summon the originals when they die. I think this wasn't in the original lists because we didn't quite realize that you would have a big board constantly. But you have a big board constantly with this deck. You also generate minions with Ritual of Power, the Herald spell. Voltaic Burst gives you a couple of 1/1 sparks with Rush. So that Ascendance, I've started seeing that, and that's pretty strong. Tiny Powell, the weapon, gives you Battlecry minions or does other good stuff.
Taunts, right? Isn't one of them taunts also?
Taunts.
One of the modes?
Yeah. Deal 1 damage to all enemies if they're facing Paladin, for example.
Yeah, Tiny
Goodbye,
Powell
Divine
is
Shields.
amazing.
Tiny Powell's real good. And we're even running, Storm Fury, I think people were not at all sure about. I remember I was like, I don't know, it might be playable. That's the 7-mana nature spell Lifesteal, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. It's always a minion and it costs 5 and that's fine. And then it leaves the 7/7 Lifesteal behind. So that's still on the list too, at least as of now. And there's also a lot of fast decks on the board. Doing a 2 damage AoE is actually relevant against a lot of decks right now. So that makes sense in the meta as well. Sands of Time, that's how the shaman got a skeleton key with Sands of Time. Like I was saying in news. Anyway.
But
sorry.
You're not bitter.
Yeah. Dawn in our Discord was describing this as overgrowth on 1. Because they always have a minion, they always are cheating 2 mana every turn, and on the early turns, that's nuts.
They do have to get a 2-drop, which is not guaranteed, right? There are things that discover, right? Blazing Invocation is probably one of the best. Or Blazing Invocation or Mountain Map are the best cards that you can get on 1 to try to make that happen. But sometimes it just doesn't offer you a 2-drop. And that's, sometimes it just offers you more expensive things and you have to wait a turn, which is not the end of the world. And you're still getting a discount on that first minion, which is a big deal. But it's not something that they can do absolutely consistently 100% of the time. It just feels like it.
But that's just turn 1, right? I think any of the first 3 turns taking advantage of that discount is pretty insane. So someone played a turn 2 in Inspector Holmes or whatever, and just looked at the only 3 cards in my hand. Now, I was going to prepare the next turn anyway, so it didn't activate. But it was still a Chillwind Yeti on turn 2. Sound familiar? That's what you used to do with Innervate and Druid back in early days. So, yeah, it's a little spooky.
Yeah, and Low Security Wing, which is the location for 1 mana that gives you a random shaman minion, and it's locked until you play another card. That's not that much of a restriction. Your curve is pretty low. You can even static shock something as long as there's a minion on board, and then that'll unlock it, and then you can play it right away. Sometimes that's playable, sometimes it's not. It's random. It's not a discover, but still, it's still a thing that's generally going to be okay. I mean, it almost doesn't matter what it is. If it's a warm body that costs 2 less than it's supposed to, it's probably fine.
I mean, it's kind of like the end of turn Holy Spells guy in Paladin. It turns out it's good to get really discounted stuff.
Yeah. Or anything out of Vanessa, right?
Yeah. And this deck, it's a low curve. In practice, your most expensive card is Storm Fury, which in practice costs 5.
Yeah.
And then everything else.
Technically, Mirrored and Last Stand cost 9, but it really costs 0 because you're just going to have a board constantly. You're constantly going to be attacking.
Yes. I've noticed they're also running Fire Breath now. I guess that makes sense because we have little elementals with Ritual of Power and Voltaic Burst, and then sometimes you can get more. And also the spells that turn into minions are all elementals. Frost Shatter, Molten Gold, and Storm Fury. So we do have even though we're not running any minions, we can still have elemental synergy. So if you like fast decks and you like having, there is definitely some randomness and variance to it, which some people do not like when they're playing. A lot of people do enjoy when they're playing. If that is you, this is strong. I think now, if you're limited on dust, it is always hard to say crafting things this early. Probably Tiny Pal is pretty safe. Card seems cracked. Mugsy, the question would be, if this deck eats a nerf, is it Mugsy himself or is it other stuff, right? We don't know. There are a few epics in here, although you probably already have Sands of Time if you did the event. But it's a good deck right now for sure.
The thing about Mugsy, even if like one of the decks gets nerfed, you could just play the other one, right? So like if let's say they just like nuked Slagclaw, like I don't know, right? Like whatever. Let's say Slagclaw was like public enemy number 1 and they just nuked it. You still have the Mug side. Or if they like nerfed Storm Fury into the ground, like you can still play the spell side. So like there's still like you're getting 2 decks in one out of that legendary, so it's a little bit more resistant to nerfs than most of those decks would be. And also they haven't really been nerfing decks into the Stone Age as much, at least since rotation, certainly before that. Like they do every so often, but like it's not like it used to be where they would just like, okay, what are the top 3 decks in the meta? Now we're just going to nerf them and make them unplayable until the next set of decks get nerfs. That's not what's been happening with the last set of balance changes. So I would say if it's playable now, like the conventional wisdom is wait until after the first set of balance changes to craft anything. I think we've seen Mugsy, when we're seeing both Mugsy decks being strong independently, it's probably fine.
Yeah, and I would hope that, as you say, they don't like kill one of them, right? I think that if they were to make the discount on the all spells deck, like if they were to change that from 2 to 1, I do think the deck would die, right? Like,
yeah.
Because you need the heavy mana discounts to really take advantage of the fact that you are all spells and your hero power is about minions. But it does feel like really a lot in those early turns. I wonder if they could use some more of that Battlegrounds technology to say, like, starting on turn X, you get this 2 mana discount. I don't know.
Yeah, or refresh 2 mana crystals or something.
Yeah, refresh. I don't know.
That might also kill it, to be honest, because not being able to get ahead of the curve is a big difference than just being able to cast it early. But I could see them maybe doing that if it really is too strong, saying whenever you play your first minion of the turn, refresh 2 mana crystals rather than it's discounted by 2. That's how they've solved this in the past in other ways.
Yeah, could see that.
I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that if it was a problem, that's something that they might decide to do.
I do kind of like the wait until turn 3 or maybe even turn 4. I don't know. They'd have to test and see what feels good, but the 4-drop on 2 is rough. That would give you a couple turns of setup.
Like I was playing the Unholy Egg DK and I was like, okay, this might be like, I'm not reliant on Egg of Kelos, but you know, I do have to be thinking about Hex, because it's also bad if they Hex Tower of Ghouls, right? That card's quite important. You know, I can give it Rush, but... And I was like, oh, Hex is not the issue here. The issue here is they played a 4/5 on turn 2. And, like, what do I do about that?
Yeah, aggro needs to have the board, and so when somebody is faster... I mean, this is essentially an aggro deck, and, you know, that has some randomness and generation and stuff, but it's a very proactive deck.
And like I later got turn 3 Wicker Fanged, and like that was annoying, but
so did I.
That doesn't happen all the time. It happens occasionally, right? It happens once or twice a Masters tour, and every once in a while, just when you're on ladder. But it is not like, oh, every time I face Marithra Druid, they turn 3 Wickerfang me, right? Whereas it does feel like with every time you face that shaman, they do something in those first 3 turns that did not feel okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they Wickerfanged, and then they did something that buffed the entire board, and then it buffed itself again.
Yep.
Yeah. That one might have been a rogue and an imbue hero power, actually.
That was one of my favorite things last meta when we were playing the Marithra Druid, and do I have some way to be able to discover Power of the Wild and play that on a Wickerfang? Like, that's what I'm gonna do, because that's my hobby. Like,
yeah, it was essentially something like that. Yes. I mean, it was kind of funny at that. Like, I did have to give it to them that was like, I'm sure a high roll for them. But yeah, I did kill the main body, but the appendages were like 3/5s each, and I had used everything to kill the main body. So yeah, I can't remember what I was playing at that point.
Much like the sages of ZZ Top, they had legs and they know how to use them.
Z Shaman, I cannot find, including this list that we actually have in the deck sheet, does have Slide Claw in it.
I did find one that I was trying to play before the show. It did not go so well.
I don't think that's what you published in here, though, because that has Slide Claw.
I found something. It's not. I found something. Maybe I just need to replace that, because I managed to find something because I was successfully playing a deck that had Z in it. So I can find that. Yeah, 0, 0, and 1. Yeah, here we go. I mean, basically, it's Herald Shaman. That's basically what it is, because you're just not playing the minion. You're not playing the spell, but you're playing everything else that's in Herald Shaman, and that's what you're doing. Which makes it a little bit less exciting. I'm entering it into the thing so that I can share it. Which everybody gets to watch me type and talk at the same time, which is always an exciting thing. But yeah, this is the list that I played one game with it and it didn't go well. But because the best battle cries that you're going to have are going to be, getting Ultraxian to go off twice into a Deathwing is pretty good, right? Getting Alakir would give you 4 minions if you're playing it. It's not going to give you 2 sets of appendages, because that's not a battle cry, but the battle cries get 2 minions with cost equal this minion's attack. They cost 1, so you would get 4 of those. Ultraxian will herald twice, and then I think it will increase by 2x plus 1 when you do that, because it's whatever
decrease the Deathwing's cost by 2x plus 1?
By 2x plus 1, by whatever it was to start with, and then the next time it'll repeat it and then add 1 more to it because of the next Herald. Which, if you have the Deathwing in hand, you might just be able to do on the same turn. Envoy of the End and Skywalled Sentinel will just summon 2 things, which is fine. And then you also have things like Firefly and you're running Witch's Apprentice just because you can get it as a free minion that you can throw down. Also, if you need 2 random spells, you could do that. But you're also just running a lot of just cheap minions that you can play that you don't necessarily care about the battle cry getting duplicated. Like, you're not trying to duplicate the battle cry on Firefly. You just want it because it's 2 1/2s that can tick up your ticker to get you to 5. So,
yeah, I think we're even running Holy Egg Bearer to get the Witch's Apprentice. I think mainly just because that's an extra free tick when you get the Witch's Apprentice on your hero power.
And it's creature-based draw, or it's minion-based draw too, right? Because you're not able to run like Muradin's Last Stand. So it's not necessarily drawing you a card that you want all the time, but it is drawing you a card and getting you to the other things in your deck a little bit more quickly.
Yeah. It's possible that even when they fix Slagclaw, the correct way to play this will have Slagclaw. I don't know if we'll be like as all in. Some of the top lists with Slagclaw have like Brawlma Searstone and Torga to draw it, and Primal Fin Challenger to make your next Kindred trigger twice. Like that's like the top Z. That on HS Guru had 7,000 games and a 61% win rate before Slagclaw was banned.
Yeah.
So, and it had Cinderfin. Like, it was all in on that. I don't know if we'll be all in on that, but I could see Slagclaw still being a decent amount of damage, even if it doesn't trigger the Sizzling Cinders Death Rattles twice. Slagclaw, we've been talking a lot about this without defining it, right, is the 5-mana 3/4 elemental dragon with Battlecry, summon 2/1 Sizzling Cinders, so it would summon 4 with that doubled, and then Kindred, which was doubling but shouldn't, trigger your Sizzling Cinders Death Rattles.
It's still a lot of damage. It's not an absurd amount of damage. It's not enough to build your... I mean, then it's not... Like, this shouldn't be a Slagclaw deck, right? And that's what it was. You shouldn't be building around Slagclaw, but I think it's a good enough card to still run in a deck like this, and it's still going to be viable when you're playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it was doing just too much damage, but I think it will still be good.
Yeah, we'll just have to see what form that ends up taking. So, listener, you may know more than us if you're listening to this next week rather than on the Patreon Raw audio or live on Twitch. So, there is also a Z Quest Shaman. Now, this I would not count on still existing for too long necessarily. We were arguing about whether we think this is a bug or not. So, Spirit of the Mountain is the quest for Shaman that most people don't remember that well. That was the play 6 minions of unique types, and it gave you the thing that like adapted all your minions henceforth. And it's no good unless you can double that battle cry, which we used to do with Shutterblock, and it was like almost good enough. Well, Z can also double battle cries. Now, the reason why we're not sure if this is a bug or not is because Spirit of the Mountain is a spell. And when you put this whole thing together, everything else is a minion. When you put this together in the client, it doesn't say, normally when you have Mugsy, it'll tell you if you qualify for Mug's hero power or Z's hero power. It says you don't qualify for a hero power, but when you queue it, as long as I assume you don't mull away the quest, it seems to like not count the quest in your opening hand as a spell in your deck, and it will still trigger the start of game effect that replaces your hero power with Z's hero power.
Yeah. I mean, it's because the way this is a reading the card explains the card situation, because the card does not say if your deck started with no other minions. It says if your deck has no other minions. And at the start of the game, because the quest is always in your opening hand, it is not in your deck, and therefore it is not turning Mugsy off in that case. Now, whether this is intended or not is a different discussion. Just because it's technically correct does not mean that it will continue to work that way on a technicality. And this is the kind of thing that they may still change, whether or not they actually change the text on the card to say if your deck started with no other minions. And they may have intended it that way. Sometimes they take some text shortcuts just because of the size of the text box.
Yeah,
and this seems like the kind of thing that they did, but then also then implemented it the way that it was written and not the way it was intended.
Yes, that text box is quite full. Like trying to add the word started. Or start, yeah, if your deck has no, is instead if your deck started with no other minions. There's not space for that.
Yeah, they just need a shorter keyword for start of game, like hi.
I mean, I guess there's font things, right? Like Tiny Pal has a lot of text, so like maybe it has 4 lines. Mugsy already has 4 lines. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that most of the text on Tiny Pal is on the ammunitions, which are not in the text box of Tiny Pal.
I mean, they don't have to change the wording of this to make it work differently, right? I think this is something, right, because like you could argue it the other way too, that the startup game is triggering before the mull. Like, I think, like, for example, we found out that with Hogger, if you have a legendary in your opening hand, it still gets doubled by Hogger. So it's weird that, like, yeah, it works differently. Or you could have it so that it counts your hand too. Like, yeah, I think you don't have to change the wording to change this if you want to change it. This is something that it does seem like it could be fun to play. I know some people who are enjoying playing it. I would not necessarily craft anything for this until we know if it's going to stick around.
Definitely don't craft Spirit of the Mountain. If you don't have Spirit of the Mountain and you would need to craft it, do not do that. That is, because Spirit of the Mountain, you are not going to get your dust back on Spirit of the Mountain. I can almost guarantee it. I would expect that they would change Muggsy. They're not going to change Spirit of the Mountain. So that is taking 1600 dust and lighting it on fire. I don't know how you light dust on fire, but that's the way you do it.
So depending on your dust situation, yeah, I would not recommend crafting it. I have to say, like, I like the quest shaman in theory, but when it was close to viable, it was so annoying to face. Like, so annoying to face. And the animations took so long. Oh my gosh, for every single minion.
Yeah. Because they just give everything Divine Shield, Taunt, Poisonous, something else, or Wind Fury, whatever. It doesn't matter at that point. Like, everything was a wall, and you had to wait for it. It was like adding salt to the wounds, where you had to watch it apply all those effects to every single minion. Like, I get it. I'm screwed. Just stop showing me how screwed I am and let me play the game, please.
Yeah, so we will see. But if you own Spirit of the Mountain, it is a thing that you can play right now. And it plays Vanessa too, of course, because of course it does. So that is Shaman. Hunter, Tripwire Face Hunter. We thought this would be good. It is good. I don't know that there's a lot to say about it that we didn't say last week. Looks like you do run Beast Tripwire as well as Arcane Tripwire. And yeah. It's the old deck, but you put the tripwires in it and the shovel.
I've seen some lists that are running Ratcatcher as well. This one that we have on screen isn't, but I've definitely seen several Ratcatchers over the last day or so. So
yes, and Underbelly Network, the draw location, is good too.
So there's a little bit of variance in this, but I mean, it's Face Hunter that also just has a burn plan, which is better, turns out.
Yep. Turns out that is better. I played one game of this with an inferior list, to be fair, but I played one game of this. Both Confront the Tolveers and both Trackings and both Tame Pets were in the bottom 10 cards. I was like, are you kidding me? So I did not win that game. So they do not always have Confront the Tolveer, even though it feels that way.
But also,
they do usually.
But also, it's still fine at 4 mana. It's perfectly okay.
Oh yeah, it is perfectly good. Yeah, this is actually one. My husband came back into the game, and I gave him my standard bundle, and he was like, "What deck do I craft?" And one of the ladder ready decks was an older Face Hunter, and I was like, "You liked the Elemental Shaman back in the day, where you just play a bunch of things, go face, and then have some burn at the end. Face Hunter. Face Hunter seems good. Play a bunch of things, you have some refill, you have some burn. Yep, it's a fun deck, but it is not super different. It's just better. So, okay, I do want to quickly note, I have a Quest Hunter here. I'm not quite sure who I'm crediting this. I ran into someone on Ladder who was playing this.
I say I motion we just blame Sidisi, whether or not it's actually his list.
And then there was someone else who came into the a new Discord member who came in and gave me this exact list right after I had faced it from someone else on Ladder. So Quest Hunter, it turns out there's only 2 8-attack minions, or 2 8-attack beasts in Standard right now. and one of them is Agamagan. So you are guaranteed when you complete the Hunter
No.
quest, which is the play odd attack beasts, right? You have to play 1, 3, 5, and 7 attack beasts. You play that, then you play the reward, then you get an Agamagan. You also have an Agamagan in your King of the Underbelly. So you usually only need one Agamagan. But if you are in dire straits, you can have what killed me when I ran into it, because I was playing Priest and so I was at 30 health. They played a 2-drop Agamagan into like an 8 cost, because it was discounted Agamagan. Or maybe it was 7, into like a Briar Spawn Drake.
That'll do it.
And I super died. Or maybe it was Shaladrisil and then something from Shaladrisil. Anyway, either way, I was dead. There's different versions of this floating around. This is the one that was passed to me through the Discord. But it doesn't have a huge sample size. It can struggle with aggression, and there is a decent amount of aggression right now. But small sample size, hard to say on all of these things. And if you liked Quest Hunter but didn't quite feel like you ever had it feeling good enough, this is it has a real combo win condition now, even more than it had before. Also, Guard Dog and Underbelly Network are good.
Yeah, Guard Dog is another. I mean, Underbelly Network is just good draw, but Guard Dog is another beast, 3-cost beast, 3 attack beast rather, that you can play for 2. That's just very sticky, and that's pretty helpful for kind of smoothing the gears on, or greasing the wheels, I guess I should say, on this deck.
Yes. One other quick note I will do: Storm the Gates is the side quest. Play 3 beasts or undead. Reward craft a custom zombie, so it costs 3 less. I think we're playing this partly because we just complete it without trying, but also you can make yourself an odd attack beast that you need this way. You do have to get a bit lucky because you can't see the second choice when you're making the first choice, but you can kind of aim for something you're missing, and sometimes you get that. Or you just pick whatever cool zombies you want. That's good too. But a small thing there. All right, so that's Hunter. I had to point that out real quick. Paladin, we talked about Paladin some. It does seem like Scarlet Bruiser is the winner for what are we putting in Beatrix, at least for now.
Deeply unsurprised, honestly. Yeah, it's just very powerful. Don't know what else to say, but getting more Paladin cards discounted by 2, a good thing.
Turns out, yeah.
And Galbin, maybe a bit harder to find. You've got a lot of recruits, so that evens out the extra cards in your deck. But I do think that there can be an effect here of the Galbin hits all the harder because you're more likely to get full value, since your auras are probably still buried in the deck, and also you run enough of them now that it's good and bad, right? It's slightly less reliable. There's going to be one kind of aura that you probably don't get, because you got acceleration and reinforcement alongside the ones that Galbin has, and then chronological. Oh, I guess the
Sand
one
Fury.
that you have here doesn't have. Oh no, it does. Sand Fury. Yeah. So, you're going to be missing something with all those auras there. But yeah, I mentioned before, Nozdormu, still a very, very good card. You can do all the silly things you could before, but now you also have an absurd turn 3 play in Vigilant Sentry or Reinforcement Aura.
Yeah. And then you have lots of ways to surprise your opponent with undercosted stuff. And the Scarlet Bruisers, you're not having to play 2-mana 2/2s most of the time because you're getting them recruited out. I mean, some of the time you are, but you have the Reinforcement Aura, you have the Scarlet Recruiter, so you have other ways for them to come out. And then you just have, it's gone back to the sort of original end of Turnitin with the auras, because I think, Reinforcement Aura is an aura and it all works out nicely there, and you have more survivability and just value and stuff because of all of the Scarlet Bruisers. I mean, she even says like something about like let's go bruisers, or like her voice line uses bruisers in it. So
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. I had one game today where they had, let me see if I can get the screenshot. I did feel a little bit bad, but also gleeful and took a screenshot. I had a Shadow Word Ruin, and they went all in on an Azdormu board. They had generated a second one. They put them both down. They did a flight maneuvers. So they had like a full 7 minion board where the smallest attack was 8. And I destroyed all of it. They'd had that on 7 too, and then it all went away.
Yeah. I also had a game where I had multiple Kaloses turned from 2020s into 3/4s by judgment. And I was very unhappy about that. Like, not just one, they generated a bunch of them and they used them to their full potential. So,
wow. That's rough. Yeah. There is stuff that can be done here. Okay. So, what else do we have here?
probably should talk about Rogue, because that's the other one that's really
Rogue. Yeah.
really at the top of the list right now.
So, 2 drops with Lotus Troublemaker. Turns out not only good in the brawl.
I mean, yeah, we knew that. It is even better than I expected. Like, I wasn't sure, because of the inconsistency, whether you would be able to make a deck that was just about that. I should have known.
On the bright side, they're not playing Twilight Mistress anymore, so that's good.
That is the bright side. And it is absolutely fantastic for them to play it into a tower of ghouls, and I just get to watch this fireworks display of ghouls getting summoned and tanking hits for me, because it all happens midway. So they'll like hit it for 2, summon these 1/1s, the 1/1s die, they hit the tower again, and then, you know, summon more 1/1. It's amazing.
It's even better with a board full of eggs, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. This is something where this was the other reason why the Control Priest was having a bit of a hard time. I burned an opponent's one of their Lotus Troublemakers. They drew the other one somewhat late. I still lost because my damage pieces were at the bottom. So like yeah, so some decks it's really rough, but if you can have a board and if they don't get the nut straw where they have both of them at the beginning, like, then it this is giving people who enjoy more combo type gameplay something that they're working towards all game.
I mean, Jay Guardians is still a hell of a card. Like, they will just play that and get 2 8-drops for 3 mana, and sometimes that's just something you can't deal with either at that point. So that is also, and they don't have to be holding it in their hand like they do the Lotus Troublemakers. They have that they can just play whenever they draw it.
Although I find that in the Troublemaker deck, they tend to play it before they're free, but when they cost 2.
Yep. This is only tangentially related, but someone pointed out the card Blackpaw's Whip, which is the weapon that costs 1 less for each coin you're holding, that you can't really coin out because then it just costs more. The flavor text is coin whip concede. Yeah,
it's solid.
So, given the show, I thought that was apropos, and I had to point it out. I'd even like made a note. Have to point this out. But yeah, and I mean, like, you can also have Vanessa turns here, right? You just have some burn. Someone is pointing out, and I don't know if this is intended or not, but Warlock, your next Murloc that costs 3 or less, costs health instead of mana. Apparently that does still count as paying 2 costs, like playing a 2-cost card if it costs health. I actually don't think that's a bug. That's not still playing a 2-cost bug.
Yeah.
I mean,
it costs 2, you're just not paying 2 mana, you're paying 2 life, but it still costs 2.
Yeah, it still costs 2. It just says cost 2. But that is something that you might not realize when you're playing it. So that Warlock Murloc can double up for you with like Rock Skipper or something like that, or if you generated something. This one doesn't have Imbue, or does it? I've been seeing a lot with Imbue.
I guess there is a point to be made that Lotus Troublemaker does say play cards for 2 mana to shoot more, and you aren't paying mana when you're paying life. So that is that could be, again, this is the unintended interactionist expansion that we've had in a long time. So there's going to be all kinds of these little things that are going to be like rules lawyery, and the game client is the ultimate rules lawyer, depending on how it was coded. So we're going to find a whole bunch of stuff like this.
Yeah, and again, we'll have to see whether they end up considering that a bug or not. I don't know where they're at on that, but yeah, it's strong. If you like combo decks, if you like Rogue, you can play this. It does have some generation. I've been seeing a lot using Imbue as well, because the Imbue spell costs 2, and sometimes you get things that cost 2. And they're like, if I could have more randomness, why wouldn't I? Yeah. I don't know if that's the strongest way to play it, but
just do be aware that like prepping something is going to affect whether it counts for 2 mana or not. So you do have 2 preps in the deck. You should be using them, but just be aware of that if you prep out a flashback, that's still a very good turn. It's just not a very good turn if you're holding a Lotus Troublemaker in your. It's not a better turn if you're holding a Lotus Troublemaker in your hand.
I mean, it can still be worth it just to have that pressure.
It's still good. Like, I'm not saying you don't ever prep a flashback. That would be bananas. But like, if you are holding a Lotus Troublemaker and you prep out a flashback, your greed is not going to be rewarded by the fact that you're also holding a Lotus Troublemaker. Like, rogues actually do have to obey the rules once in a while.
It is in fact a choice. Yes. Well, okay. So that's basically what's going on for Rogue. Warrior, Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior is still good. We play Hogger, we play Warptooth, as we would have expected. Turns out the secret tech here is Mother Duck. Mother Duck
that tracks.
is a 4-mana 2/3 beast that says Battlecry summon 3 1/1 ducklings with Rush. This is one way to make sure you get Warptooth out. Because you can run them into something, and then that's Warptooth by themselves, or you can attack with, like, is this running the weapon? No, it's not. You can run them into something or play Searing Fissure if there's nothing on the board for them to run into. And Searing Fissure does 1 damage to all minions, give your hero +3 attack this turn. So that will make sure that you get Warptooth out. Because it is occasionally harder than you might expect to get Warptooth out if you haven't built a really wide board. So Mother Duck is a board in a box for the purposes of Warptooth. Otherwise, it's pretty similar to what you would expect for Dragon Warrior, Prescient Slither Drakes, etc. You can play Egg Warrior, like Wicked was describing. It's Egg Warrior, but you got 2 Umbras and 2 eggs, and also a couple Warptooths for good measure, because why not?
Yeah. They do help you trade, like in the mid-game when you're trying to get the egg to die. Because like you'll have things like Shellnado, and Shellnado will kill 1 egg and 2 damage to another. So that'll count for 2.
That's
right.
Nice.
And then you are running the weapon Axe of the Forefathers, which does 1 damage to all minions. It'll also count your face, so it'll allow you to run your face into things and get there. You've got Acolyte of Pain. But the fact that the egg counts, I mean, you can also do things like like Eternal Toil, Torch, then it dies, and then you Sanguine Depths it and torch it, and then it dies, and then you slam it and you torch it, and then it dies, and then you've got 3, and then your Warptooths come out. I mean, it's kind of like you're already running Hogger, you might as well. Like, it's 1 card in your deck that ends up being 6 damage or just 2-3 mana, 3 damage removal spells when you're doing that in the early game, which is generally when you want it. And then it also just gets a card out of your deck or 2 cards out of your deck to get you closer to the other part of it. Like I did have one game where both Umbras were the last 2 cards in the deck, and I was very sad.
Wow.
And that was against a Millhouse Mage, and I really needed those Umbras earlier, and by the time I got the Umbras, it was too late. Because they were just able to generate a taunt every turn, and I couldn't get the Kelos and freeze the Keloses, and I couldn't get them through. But yeah, that's otherwise it's Egg Warrior. Like if you played Egg Warrior before, it's Egg Warrior, but you have more eggs, and more eggs is better. But otherwise it's pretty much the same deck. Like I'm not sure what we cut for Hogger and Warptooth. Whatever it is, you don't miss it. And having an extra Umbra is pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially because on the second Umbra, you get more Keloses out of the gate because you've had more of the last egg die by the time that you play the second Umbra. So I've had the second Umbra. Sometimes I've gotten 3 20/20s out of the second Umbra because like you have 2 eggs that you can play, right? And then you have a bunch of the eggs from the first Umbra that have died and summoned to 20/20. So you can get multiple 20/20s out of the last one, and that can be sometimes hard for somebody to be dealing with at that stage of the game.
I will note, though, that you don't want to play the second egg before the Umbras if you can help it, right? Like if you've already played one egg, you don't want more of those earlier stages entering Umbra. For the same reason.
Probably don't want to play the second egg ever, but it makes
I think you get hexed or something like that.
Yeah, unless you get hexed. Like that would be the one reason that you would do it. It gives you a little bit of insurance against hex. It makes it more consistent to find it. Like you've got 2 egg bearers and 2 eggs now, which just you're adding a couple of cards to your deck. As you're doing that, you're adding 3 extra cards to your deck. But you're adding another egg, so you make it a little bit more consistent to be able to find it and get going, which it's not nothing.
Yep, it seemed strong when I faced it. I have also included 2 different Logosh warriors. These are not necessarily in the same place in the stats. I had one from Enzo. It'll probably change. It changes like once a day, but this is the latest one. It changes once a day when he's excited about the game, so I appreciate that he's excited about the game right now. And then there was one that I just found on HS Guru that had decent stats with about 600 games. So I only played a tiny bit of this, and my opponent, like I played like one game and my opponent got the nuts, so I don't know that I can really speak to the strength of it, but I definitely want to experiment with this a little more. And if you have the Blood Fighters and you want to experiment with it, it certainly was easier to get them all in my hand. I will say that. It looks like Enzo's version's a little bit more aggressive and even has like Warden Maiev and like Stonecarver and Release the Beasts to buff the Blood Fighters. The other version that I found on HS Guru was had like city defenses and just like a little bit more defensive, I think.
I guess it depends on how many legendaries you want to have in the deck. Like putting Maiev in is a choice because that means you're getting 2 Maievs in the deck, which means that it's going to be harder to find the Blood Fighters, which is really, you want to have as many Blood Fighters in your hand as possible when you start Blood Fightering. And a Maiev will make them bigger, but it also will make it harder to draw them.
But a lot of the warrior decks are all using similar like Acolyte of Pain type, Torch, Sanguine Depths tech that's just strong in warrior in general right now.
Yeah. I mean, you're running all the things that damage your stuff because you want to get Warptooth out. It's as simple as that.
And they were already good cards that we were playing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like you already were playing them anyway, and now you super want to play them because you get 2 3/3s.
All right. Druid, I haven't played any of the Chef Druid. Have either of you played the Chef Druid?
I did. Yeah, I played the Chef Druid. It is... it it's very dependent on the minions that you generate. So the general idea is that Chef Nethrek is a 3 mana, 3/3, start a game. If your deck has only cards that cost 3 or less, set your mana to 10 after 5 turns. So you're playing mostly spells in this case. You're playing the minions that you are running. You're running Spectral Chef, this is a new card that's 3 mana, 3/2 with Battle Cry. Summon a 2-cost taunt minion. If you have 6 or more minions, summon a 6-cost instead.
You mean if you have 10 or more mana?
If you have 10 or more mana. Yeah, so that's fine. You'll run Spiderling just because it lets you remove stuff in the early game. Like your general game plan is just don't die. And then once you get to 10 mana, then you have things like Moss Binding, which you spend all your mana, you summon 2/1/2 golems, and you give them +1/+1 for each mana you spent. This list is running Spider Rider. There are other lists. This is Cantaloupe's list. There is another list that Spider Rider is the 2 mana 1/4 that after your hero attacks you draw a card, because you're also running Secret Ingredient, which can give you +2 attack. You just have a hero power that lets you attack, like that sort of a thing, so you can draw more cards and get going. There was also the 2-drop that shuffles 2 beasts, or doesn't shuffle 2 beasts. It puts 2 beasts on the bottom of your deck with +3/+3, and then it was running contingency to be able to draw them off the bottom. This is not doing that. It's just running. You're running You're just running like survival type stuff, and then this is not running the
Azara's
story
Triumph.
Azara's Triumph. It wasn't running Story of Barnabas, which is the draw spell, which is probably fine. But Azara's Triumph is the big deal. That's the 1 mana arcane spell that shuffles 5 random minions in your deck that costs 8 or more and doubles your stats. I was confronted with a turn 6 Ultra Gigasaur today. I did not have a way to remove a 56 butt dinosaur, and that killed me. I was not the one playing the deck at that point. So, and you've got like wave shaping to get stuff out. You've got, you're running a lot of draw, and you just want to get these big things out and then play them. And then you hope that you generate good things and that you can find them early. And then if you do, then you play them, and your opponent probably can't deal with them that early. Or if they can, then you're sad. But you have enough ways to kind of build a few different waves of those. Like you play a Moss Binding one turn, you play one of the giant minions the next. You do that again. This list is running Further Synthesis, which will restore 6 health, get 3 random druid spells. It's also running Lethal Recipe, which is the new spell that draws 2 minions, and if you have 10 or more mana, you give them +3/+3. So most of the minions that are going to be in your deck at that point should be the ones that you're shuffling from Azara's Triumph, which is probably why we're cutting the 2-drop that put the beast at the bottom of your deck, because you don't want to be drawing that with Lethal Recipe. You want to be drawing the big guns with that. So it's an interesting deck. I actually was doing pretty well with it. I want to say on Tuesday maybe, until Edel sent me. The only reason I stopped playing is because Edel sent me the mage, and I'm like, okay, that's more fun. But I mean, it almost doesn't matter what the minions are that you're shuffling in if they're 8-drops and they're big and you can play them. If your opponent can't deal with them, then they're just like, I couldn't deal with the Ultra Gigasaur and I got hit for like 26 a turn, and you can only survive so many of those hits. So.
Yeah. I would say probably only one.
No, I was able to tank one. The second one got me though.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I was playing Warrior at the time, so I had enough armor to live through the one hit, but the second one was a little bit more problematic.
All right, I'm going to mention Warlock here, then I'm going to let Edel do our final thing on Mage and DK, and then we'll end on Priest, because I said so. So, although that'll be quick too. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to start with Priest because I already talked through Priest real fast. We have a couple of Soothsayer Priests here. One is sort of the list popularized by No Hands Gamer. Then there was a alternate version that seems to be from China that has somewhat better stats, very similar idea. I feel vindicated to see that a couple of the changes that I had made are represented in this, including replacing a Disciple of the Dove with Portal Vanguard, because then you have 2 shots to get the Soothsayer, basically, and it might have +2/+2. And putting in Kalia Menethil, which Battlecry resurrect your highest cost minion that died this game, because we also have like Umbra, and sometimes we just need an extra Soothsayer for our Umbra, because we haven't been able to like schism it or anything yet. Really, this is also Hold Them Off is a big part of this deck as well. Hold Them Off is the prepare, give a minion +5/+5 and lifesteal spell. You do want to make sure, like if you're facing a shaman, don't just throw that down into a hex, right? Like put it on something when it's lived so that you can get the 5 healing, or sometimes you might spread it across, not put it on the Soothsayer and put it on something else so that they have 2 big threats they have to deal with. Depends on your opponent. If they're just going to have to run their whole board into your Soothsayer, then like, sure, just have an 11/11 lifesteal, taunt, death rattle, heal myself, and summon a 6-drop. Like, sounds good. You know,
or tank a bunch of troublemaker shots. Even that's fine too, right? Like you have to get rid of this, or it's gonna tank half your troublemaker, and then you're gonna kill it. I'm gonna heal afterwards.
We can be pretty good versus troublemaker with this deck, because then also once you finish the quest, which you have actually a lot of stuff geared towards actually finishing the quest, then you have these reborn things that deal damage. So they really don't want a troublemaker into that, right? So if you can go fast enough, or just keep things on the board, then that can actually be helpful against the rogues. Holy Embrace is helpful for that. Do be careful with Twilight Influence, which we're running just because we need a shadow spell, 2-mana shadow spell. That's the choose one, destroy a minion with 3 or less attack, or summon a random 2-cost. I rarely summon a random 2-cost because it could have a death rattle, and that kind of messes us up. So we're just using it as Shadow Word Pain. It is Shadow Word Pain.
That said, if you're me, the few games that I played this deck, Soothsayer was guaranteed to summon a death rattle every time, and then usually a death rattle that I didn't want to be repeating with Umbra, almost exclusively. So that will happen sometimes. You just kind of need to be prepared for that. Or if you're me, just bail on it, because you know what's going to happen every time, and then
It happened less often for me, I will say. And we don't necessarily need Umbra to hit all 5 times, but yeah, if it's happening all the time with Soothsayer, then that is frustrating. Also, Ritual of Life is run in the Chinese list here. That discovers a 3-cost minion, summon a 2/3 copy of it. Again, unless it's like a really good death rattle 3-cost, probably don't pick a death rattle if you can help it.
Or if you're me and you get offered all death rattles.
Or and just don't play this list at all if you're Wicked, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we also have Undeath Sentence, right? That triggers the death rattle of a random friendly minion that died this game. And I have absolutely lost because I didn't think about what was in there, or it got me the wrong thing. But it can also really be clutch in other situations. One other note on Kalia. Umbra also costs 7, so you do want to Kalia before you Umbra if possible. Because otherwise, you do still I think you still have a better shot of getting the Soothsayer. Yeah. I'm not certain whether
it's a 50/50 it's going to look
not.
At the pool, right? So you should have at that point, you definitely have, well, not definitely. You should have more Soothsayers than Umbras in your dead pool at that point. But like if you've only killed off one Soothsayer and for some reason you've played Umbra at that point, then Kalia will be like a coin flip. But generally, if you've killed off enough Soothsayers that you're willing to play Umbra, you should have more Soothsayers in the pool. But there's still a chance, and it's called probability for a reason. So
yep, happened to me. But if playing Umbra is the right call and you haven't had a chance, like don't delay playing Umbra when she's the right call just because you haven't played Kalia yet. Just be aware that if you need her to bail you out and Umbra has died, there is a chance that she will not bail you out, as I discovered. So Intertwined Fate is kind of fun. There's a lot of fun things that you can get with Intertwined Fate in this meta, except I have to say Paladins have very little that's good to steal because all their best cards are not that helpful for us. I mean, Nosdormu is good, Or like Toreth is probably pretty good. But their pure pally stuff doesn't help us.
You super do not want the bruisers because they're death
No.
rattles that do
And
literally nothing.
Yeah. So that's what I found. But most other things have juicy stuff to give you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and honestly, if you're just getting another Soothsayer out of your deck and then you get garbage from them, you're probably still happy.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah. This deck is pretty strong. I got frustrated with the shamans, but I might go back to it.
Just queue around them. It's fine. Like,
it's fine.
Just get good.
Yeah. And then I already talked about the Control Priest. I put in my latest, like one of the recent versions that I played, but play at your own risk. And it probably shouldn't have 2 Firebolts. It probably should have some, it might need Holy Nova. Anyway, if you want to experiment with it, there is what I've been experimenting with, but play at your own risk. All right. Warlock. I see Edelweiss has added a Reform Warlock. Real sneaky just right now.
It previously had Heralds because Deathfang is a nice source of armor, and the location's a nice source of draw, and you can do the, like, steal one of their minions and eat it thing. But I think that was just a little too heavy mana cost-wise. And so if you take out all the Herald stuff, you can trim it down, add like Conflagrate, and this is the list that I've put in the sheet. Conflagrate and Hellfire, just so you have like some kind of clear before turn 6, where you get Eldritch Tentacles and Calamity Reform. Or Calamitous. And yeah, I mean, you still have double Nether and Annihilation, and then of course, Archmage. So you have a lot of clears. This was something that I started messing up with when I was like, I would like to be able to clear Paladin boards, please. But the issue I was running into was basically not having stuff for those early boards, right? Like, you've got Shadow Rounds, but that's less good than you would think. Maybe I should have Thalnos in here just because that's a good one too, but perhaps instead of Zuramet's Prison, we'll see. But
I did have an egg taken by Curse Chains and then Drain Sold, and I was done with that game after that very quick.
Right, and so that's where I'm like, well, maybe you don't really need the Herald location, right? Like, you still have ways you can kill things after stealing stuff. So because Curse Chains, I think, even if it's just sometimes like, well, I know this is going to go back to you, but I just need to take it away for a bit, I think that's fine for a deck that ultimately is trying to win with Reform. So, and yeah, I guess the downside to removing the Heralds is that you don't have that like backup plan of, I'm going to hit you for 5 every turn. But I think right now, where no one is running Dirty Rat, like, you actually just need to defend. And there is a weirdness to this deck of, like, you kind of want to be in this space where you only have like 2 or 3 cards in the void, because otherwise it's kind of, unless there's a system to what you get back, in which case I do not remember, but I know that, like, sometimes if you have just a ton of stuff in there, you're like, I don't know what I'm getting next. But yeah, there's Reform cards I need that are in there. Like,
I thought it was first in, first out, but
probably it is not. It is random.
No, okay.
It is random.
Well, then yeah, you want to be able to have some reliability of, like, okay, I kind of know what I'm going to get once I open up this hand space. Yeah. So it's a tricky deck to play.
Also threw in, I will have to try that because apparently I'm on a control kick. I don't know. I will also try your Unholy Decay, but before we move on, I did throw in a Batmask Warlock. Also,
why don't you remind people what Batmask does, because nobody's seen this card played ever.
Excuse
That
you.
Mask says, is 8 mana. Set a friendly minion's stats to 1/1. Fill your board with copies of it. So I have seen people do this with Earthen Drake. That has... I will say, that one has enough data to have a win rate, and it is truly abysmal. So just, like, really very bad. Deep red. But I had to throw this one in here that's using Captured Archmage.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and then you kill it with like Hellfire, and then you Umbra later for the. So it has a higher ceiling of damage, and then you're trying to survive, and it's also running Animancer with Asphyxiate on for survival, basically. And even though that means that Umbra might not trigger, might not trigger nearly as many times, that's okay. And also most of the death rattles were Archmages, so she'll probably get Archmages. Yeah. That's the deck. Oh, there's also a Chronolord Deus to go with Umbra, in case you need it. And Ysera.
Sure. As one does.
Sure. As one does. Play at your own risk. But shout out to those in the Discord who were talking about cooking this one. All right. That leaves just Mage and Death Knight.
So we talked about the control mage.
Yeah.
There's definitely burn mage too. Honestly, a little surprised not to have seen more of it. Yeah. It's, I think, pretty solid. I don't know what the correct build is going to be. I know kind of the traditional thing, right, is like you've still got some minions. I think you want too much new stuff to still go that elemental route. But there's
In the
a
burn
lot
mage
of...
you're saying?
Right. Where you've got the violet, the 1-drop that gives you arcane missiles, and you got the 3-drop that summons a copy, and like all that. Like, it felt a little wonky previously to me. Like, sometimes it worked great, and sometimes you were like, I just don't quite have enough elementals for this. And so I would imagine that you kind of take that out. But the addition of wands makes you really want to play Open the Waygate, because then you get 3 0-mana arcane missiles, and that just opens the door to a lot of crazy things. I was messing around with Vanessa, right? You can have huge Vanessa pop-off turns. Obviously, if you play Contraband Wands before you Calic, you're increasing all of that spell damage. Now, I was messing around with kind of a miracle mage where you have Vanessa, have Millhouse, have Calic, and then it's just the dragons and Xavius, right? And like, those are your minions. So you're trying to find those specific minions. That is maybe a little ambitious, right? You probably want to be able to add the +2 spell damage dragons in there, because they're really good with the aforementioned wands. But you can do lots of silly things with the ability to play a bunch of 0-mana cards. So,
do we ever hard run Archmage Antonidas?
No. Why? Oh, I see what you mean.
If you have free arcane missiles,
it's interesting. I think that would be in one where you're definitely not so focused, right? Where you aren't doing the, my weird thing of like, I only have these few minions to capitalize on, because it's a little too slow. But I could see a world where you're no longer doing the elemental package, and so you go for like Tony, I do think like maybe you'd still rather Volcanos, and you probably don't want both.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's a lot of stuff to mess around with, and people are sort of doing the easier other stuff.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just know that I've generated a non-zero number of Antonitises from Millhouse, and it's been good whenever. I mean, getting a free Antonitis is generally good. That's not really a controversial statement, but especially in a spell deck. But if you're doing Story of the Waygate things, maybe that's something. I mean, just the presence of Contraband Wands and Story of the Waygate might just be enough to be able to justify playing an Antonitis deck again.
So I put both the version of the mirror in the sheet, Wicked, if you go back. I put both a Burn Mage that I found on HS Guru that actually had enough data for stats that pretty much just added Contraband Wands and Story of the Waygate, and otherwise is the same elemental list. But then I also put the Miracle Mage at least at the state that it was when you gave it to me, Edel. So those are also in the sheet for anyone who would like to see them.
Because you even have like the back half of First Flame that you could discount to 0 with the Story of the Waygate,
and it works on flow in a really
it works on Arcane Flow,
right? Like
it doesn't make it 0, but it works on it. Yeah.
It does make it 2,
right? Which is less than 4.
Yeah. Right, like because if it's split up, you get the discount on each half, and then it combines, and you get the joint discount. So,
yeah, all those weird shatter things. So, yeah, no, I'm surprised that other people haven't really been experimenting more with this side of Mage. But there's also older Burn Mage seems to be doing okay. All right. Last but not least, the deck that I should be playing now that I have a better sense of how to play it. Unholy Egg Decay. This is different than what you'll see from... So on the stat sites, I saw just like regular Unholy Death Knight. That's like regular Unholy Death Knight like before with just a couple additions. This is like, we got Sawbones. We got two Talanji's Last Stands. We got Tower of Ghouls. And we got Egg of Kalos, because it's always a thing on the board, as well as some Twilight Eggs. It's always a thing on the board we can like kill with our Sawbones or buff or give attack out of nowhere. Have you ever actually gotten Kalos out of it?
No.
Yeah.
Has not mattered.
I did not think that was the point. No.
I mean, it could happen, It's a possibility.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There is indeed a chance. Yeah, like it's mostly just to be able to be eaten from Sawbones, and that's plenty. And also, like, as a target for Defias Smuggler, there's a lot of sort of cool stuff that you can do.
Grave Strength.
I mean, I have played against more than one deck that seemed to be all in on just killing it, just Death Knight Egg of Kalos, that was also running like Soul Rest Ceremony and stuff like that, in order to go all in on just killing it repeatedly. But that's not what you're doing. But there is a deck out there if you wanted to play Egg but also Death Knight, there is a way for you to do that.
That is another deck, yes. It must have hurt someone, because the first time I queued up this deck, I played Egg Bearer on 2. I hadn't even played the Egg of Kalos yet. I'd actually gotten a Twilight Egg in my hand, but they just left. They didn't even concede, they left. So someone was hurt badly, I guess.
Which is surprising from a DK egg deck, right? Like, I get if you're tired of Warrior or whatever,
I mean, some people are just tired of egg. Period.
Yeah.
They're just allergic to eggs.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah. Maybe they had just lost to, a couple egg warriors in a row or something, and then they were like, DK's playing it too, I'm out.
Can we do anything with Egg Priest again?
I did run into, so shout out to an opponent of mine today, Diamond Hands, who was playing Egg Priest. Apparently this was a VS list with a couple of small changes that they had made. And they did win, although mostly because they had a nutty Vanessa turn. Not because of the egg per se. They said Hex is rough, but otherwise they are enjoying the deck. So yes, there is a build running around, but thank you for the kind words. Usually these days, if someone adds me, I will accept. Sometimes if I just beat them in particularly annoying fashion, I will wait 10 minutes and then accept. So if you friend me and I take a while, it might be because I'm worried that you might be mad. But mostly it has been people who are nice, and that is very appreciated to hear from people and just get that feedback. So thank you for that. But I think that'll do it for us.
We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our About Us section on the website at coinconcede.com. We also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at CoinConcede. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@coinconcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. I do want to do a quick shout out to the Hearthstone community team for sending us some pretty cool looking cookies, which I will say, it is nice. They send us a lot of cool stuff, and I've appreciated the increased quality in like doing fewer things but better quality things. That was something that I had started. This was them trying a little something different, which is that obviously we are accruing a lot of stuff. So sending us cookies that we can eat is for our viewers on YouTube. There's like Vanessa Van Cleef. There's, for whatever reason, the spider from Druid.
Because he's a chef.
Okay, sure. Wait, no. It's the one that gives you +1 attack. It's not.
Yeah, but he's a chef. He works in the kitchen. Sure. He's got a little chef hat on.
All right, sure. And then just the logo for the set, right? Thank you from the Hearthstone team, and then your classic Hearthstone thing. So here, I guess now that I'm doing it, I may as well show all the different cookies. That being said, they are more about the visuals than about the taste. They're generic sugar cookies, right? I do prefer a sort of more interesting cookie. I've never been a sugar cookie fan. Rach said they're also not particularly good sugar cookies, but such is the price of getting
There's no such thing
cool
as a
visuals.
bad cookie, though.
Right? Yeah, right. Like you eat
except for oatmeal
pizza. What?
Oh, okay. All right. I will not start a war at the end of the episode then. Okay,
wait,
I retract my statement.
You don't like oatmeal chocolate chip cookies?
I don't like I like cookies that taste like sweets and not cookies that taste like breakfast.
Okay, look, I'll give you, I don't like oatmeal raisin, right?
Yeah.
But oatmeal chocolate chip is phenomenal. It's a great texture. Oh man.
It is a good texture. I did not always think so, but it is a very good texture. It's like a pastry and a cookie.
Yeah.
Kind of.
They remind me of the cookies that we tried to make on Passover.
Well, that's a different problem
and I'm just
entirely.
going to leave it at that.
Uh-huh. There's a bakery that we love here called On the Rise, and they make something that they call a Jennifer cookie. I do not know why, but they are so good. I don't know entirely what's in them, but it's just like a bunch of different stuff. Do they list the ingredients here? Let's see.
You probably don't want to know what's in it. Like, you're probably better off just not knowing.
No, this is a phenomenal bakery. It's.
Well, I know it's good. You probably don't want to know like how many fattening things are in there.
Oh, I think it might actually be.
I'm not saying that they're putting like bat wings in there or anything like that. I'm just saying that you probably don't want to know like how much like fat and sugar is in the cookies.
Okay, they're filled with oats, pecans, and chocolate.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Very, very yummy.
That sounds good. Yeah. My husband is gluten-free, dairy-free, so there's a limit to the cookies he can get. Although the Bay Area is a good place to be gluten-free, dairy-free. Probably second only to like, we're going to go on a trip to Oregon in a few weeks. And when we were looking, we like found a bed and breakfast and we were like, oh, well, will he be able to have the breakfast? Yes, it's Oregon. He will be able to have the breakfast. But there is a brand of like Fig Newton knockoffs that is gluten-free, dairy-free, and actually perfectly decent. So it's like that gets his like mass-produced cookie thing, and then he bakes a lot actually to make the homemade cookie thing. But I also most of the time have regular cookies in the house. So because I am a cookie fiend. I love cookies. I love snickerdoodles especially.
Snickerdoodles are phenomenal. Another excellent cookie.
But I have appreciated having additional beautiful cookies.
Yes. As of my children.
Yes. I'm sure that is helpful to getting through them. I also want to coin concede, I think, to Raren. He had a video that I just watched on, like, has there been, like, what's the power creep in Hearthstone, where he, like, made a PowerPoint.
Oh.
And he was comparing classic cards at each mana cost to current standard cards at that mana cost. Like, he'd pick, like, the 2 best classic 2-drop neutrals and the 2 best current standard 2-drop neutrals. This was slightly before the expansion came out. But it was very interesting. Basically, the cheaper cards, some of those classic cards were nuts, like Starving Buzzard or original Edwin Van Cleef.
Yeah.
Would totally be nuts now. The expensive cards, though, like Rag is in standard now and does not see play. Most of I think because you had less draw and you had less generation, the value, an expensive card was worth it for its value, almost like it used to be in Arena. It didn't need to do a ton. It was just like card advantage to only play one card. Now expensive cards have to do stuff, but it was interesting how much, like, we forget that there were some crazy cards. Sorcerer's Apprentice, OG Sorcerer's Apprentice. I do have to say, though, he was like, I don't know if Auchenai Soul Priest would see play. Yes, she would.
Oh,
the priest would totally be good enough. The priest would be so good with Auchenai Soul Priest.
But like Azure Drake was an auto include,
right? And now is
that
too
is
slow.
like not like a 5-mana 4/4 that draws you a card and gives you +1 spell damage is not at all seeing play today. Like, I remember not being able to play Dragonfire Potion in, was that Karazhan, I think, or Gadgetzan, not Karazhan, in Gadgetzan, because it was a 6-mana spell for priest that did 5 damage to everything but dragons, and every deck had Azure Drake in it, and you could never clear with it. And that would super not be, I mean, now you wouldn't be able to kill Prussian Slither Drakes and it would be just as bad, but it wouldn't be because of Azure Drake.
Yeah, that was one where he had it up to compare to other 4-drops, and he was like, chat, don't get at me that this is a 7-cost card. You have never paid 7 mana for this in your life. Be honest. None of you. None of you have ever paid 7 mana for this. So anyway, it was a fun idea and entertaining as he often is with those kinds of videos.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that about, the cheap versus expensive cards, because there definitely were some things on the lower end that were nuts.
Mana Worm. OG 1 mana Mana Worm.
God, I miss Mana Worm. Oh, man. Mana Worm Sorcerer's Apprentice costs 4 now. Because Wild could not deal. I mean, reasonable. But, I almost would rather... I wonder if they would ever consider doing this. I feel like we're almost in post-show content at this point, but I wonder if they would ever consider, bring Sorcerer's Apprentice to Standard, make it 2 again, because it's unplayable at 4, and just ban it in Wild, right? Because making it cost 4 is banning it in Wild.
Or they could apply the Bodicus rule.
No, don't. It's fine.
The Bodicus rule being that cards can't ever cost less than 1.
But I just want Source. I want my girl back in Standard at 2 mana. Oh, they had yours in Standard for 2 mana, right? The I guess
Radiant
I
Elemental.
guess it's been a while at this point. Yeah, but Radiant was in core at one point, wasn't it?
It sure was. And that was when Naga Priest was a thing.
See? It was great. It was fine.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Naga Priest was good, but not ridiculous.
It finally got hit because of Boon Priest. Boon Priest, when that finally emerged, was like, okay, that's a little ridiculous.
Right,
but Naga
right.
Priest had a good win rate, but a low play rate, and wasn't totally egregious. But I really liked how it had, you didn't always use the Radiant Elemental. Sometimes you just tempoed, but that was there as an alternate burst plan. And yeah, I loved that deck. But I also understand why some people didn't. But I mean, Coin Concede to Hat. For I assume this was his idea, that at some point you guys did a Dexplanations on Naga Priest. And I remember listening to it in the car and then getting home and immediately queuing it up and getting into top 1K for the first time.
I think that was
nice.
me. I think that one was me, because I remember
That
playing
was you?
that. Yeah, because I played that. Whatever, it wasn't the expansion. It was there's another expansion where it got a couple cards, and I remember playing somebody's deck that was that once it got the new cards, right after the expansion came out, and then I wanted to talk about it. I don't think that was actually hacked, because I don't think I thought it was an aggro deck at the time. I've been bamboozled into playing an aggro deck. That's what happened.
Coin Concede to you then.
Okay.
I was playing it. I had a student who found out that I played Hearthstone and said, my dad plays that game. I've told the story before, but it's a good story, so I'm going to tell it again. And so then he would ferry this conversation between me and his dad back and forth for the next 3 months. My dad wants to know what rank you're at. And at that point, I was 770 legend. So he brings that back. Oh, my dad says, wow, you're really good. What deck are you playing? Naga Priest. My dad said he hates that deck.
Oh, amazing. Well, we should probably cease with the post-show mid Coin Concedes. So,
yeah.
Wicked, did you say Coin Concedes yet?
I didn't, but also I'm tired. So Coin Concede to everybody. Coin Concede to both of you for holding down the fort last week. How about that? And that'll do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and don't be afraid to sneak your quests into your decks that don't run spells. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend.